guys, welcome back to Full Package RC. We have got an incredible show for you this time. An amazing guest, along with our normal guys of Mike Sobey.
Hey guys.
Aaron Heister.
Yo, what's going on?
And myself, Bob Heister. This week, joining us, we have the one and only Bert Kammerer.
How you doing, guys? Don't build so much anticipation around me. I'm just an old man having fun, dude.
Yeah, that's about the same for all of us. So normally here we kind of start off finding out what new stuff Mike bought that he had for 2 weeks and decided to sell it again. But since we have so much to cover, the only new bit of news I would say that we have, I would like to throw a big congratulations out there to our own Aaron Heister on his recent engagement. Congratulations,
Thank
Aaron.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, sweet. Congrats, man.
My condolences.
Your condolences.
You got to remember that word gag is an engagement. Just remember that.
She's well aware of that. I got her well trained.
And it took how many years for you to do this?
Only like 7.
You
know, I'm still young. I'm only 26, man. I had plenty of time. We're good.
Yeah. But now that ring just cost you your new heli for this year, huh?
Yeah, or at least one good crash, or one really fucking good crash. But yeah, it's all good. I'll end up getting another 700 this year.
You hear that, Mike?
I'll fulfill my promise to Mike.
Yeah, you kept promising Mike like a 580, 570, something along those lines for IRCHA or before IRCHA.
Nah, I like my 600 too much, and that thing's too fucking old. So we're probably gonna, again, I've always said, probably just a good old Goblin 700.
That 600 needs to just be hung on a wall and left go.
Yeah, she needs to die.
That actually, so a side note, this is actually kind of funny. So that 600, with the 600 we're talking about, it's an old Align T-Rex 600 Pro DFC. And funny story, as appropriate for our guest that we have on here, is Aaron got that heli. We bought that for him in 2013. So he's had that thing for 12 years now. Right after he got it, we went to IRCHA. We actually gave it to him a little early so he'd have it because his birthday is in August for IRCHA usually.
Yep.
For his birthday, I had actually communicated with Bert that year about having him something super simple, but I know he's always busy, especially back in the day. SAB was like all over everything out there. And Bert was kind enough to take some time out of his schedule. Aaron, at the time, you were, 14?
14 or 15.
Yeah, so to basically stand with him, just spot for a flight, which Aaron thought was one of the coolest things ever, because here you have this guy that's in the hobby, everyone knows who he is, taking time out of his busy schedule to come over and spot a flight for him, give him some pointers on his new heli, and he was even kind of surprised we were still flying the 3GX, which... Yeah, given later we were actually able to, but so I kind of want to give you a big shout out on that too, Bert. That was an incredible time, and that was something we still have pictures from it, and it was always a very memorable moment from IRCHA.
Yes, yeah, very.
It was a cool time. The 3GX was still not. I mean, I thought at the time, oh, you're still flying that. Well, it wasn't that old, really. Like hindsight 2020, you look back, it was 4 years old at the time.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
My biggest thing,
issues.
I had a heck of a time just translating the instructions because they were very poorly translated. So I had to read them 6 times to try to figure out how the hell to program the thing because I was still new to the hobby myself.
Was that your Align days, Bert, or was that?
No, that
was Goblin.
No, I was already doing Goblin. I think Align fired me. I don't know. They fired me for some reason. They had a new team manager. I don't want to get into politics, but I wasn't making the new team manager happy, and he was in the U.S. market. So he basically something happened. Anyway, long story short, I think it was I'm trying to think 2009. They basically said bye-bye, and then I went, and then Bobby Watts had gotten this new deal with Heli Wholesaler, which was a sister company for Heli Pros. If anybody remembers Heli Pros way back in the day, Heli Wholesaler had become an Align distributor in the U.S. and they were looking for pilots and stuff, and they asked if I wanted to fly for them, and it was pretty cool because I could keep flying Align even though I was no longer a part of the Align team. So I kept flying a line up until whenever that was that I started SAB. I think late 11. So in 13, I was definitely flying for SAB.
Oh, yeah.
I flew for SAB from late 11 until literally early 2024, a year ago. I was with SAB for like, I don't know, 12, 13 years. Crazy.
Wow.
2012
that's a
was
long
their
time.
first year at IRCHA. I remember
What's that?
that.
Yeah.
2012 was SAB's first year out at IRCHA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you were out there. That's when
you.
didn't you have like the Lambo out there or something doing the pictures and that yellow, was it a yellow Lamborghini or something like that? The convertible?
Yeah, it was a
SAB
yellow
girls.
Lamborghini that at the time Heli Direct was the distributor, and one of the owners of Heli Direct, they're brothers. I think Sam is the only one that owns it, but one of them wanted to rent a Lamborghini, and they went and rented it, and they had models. That's back in the heyday, like they were following on Augie's footsteps when, the big dogs wanted to bring these hot chicks and have models and have, girls walking down the flight line, and carrying pilots' helicopter. Yeah, good old days, man.
That was the fun days.
It was fun. It was
hell
fun.
yeah. I only remember that first year because that was actually my first year at IRCHA. And believe it or not, it was my first fun fly ever was IRCHA 2012. So the very first fun fly I ever got to was freaking IRCHA. That was.
Did you see was it the Thailand heli blowout? They had the girls holding umbrellas and stuff, shading the pilots.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty funny.
All kinds of extra memes going around with that. Other guys doing it, and that was kind of funny.
But 2013, that was a massive, huge year back at IRCHA. I mean, I remember. I don't know if that was the biggest year, but it was it could have been 12, 13, or 14. There was a year when they had like, I don't know, and they always inflated numbers, but I don't doubt they had over 1,000 pilots. I think they said 1,100 or something. It was insane. It was massively huge and so much fun. So much fun.
There was nowhere to park along that whole flight line. If you went even all the way up by the curve, you were parked 2, 3, 4 deep, and if you could have been parking somebody in, it was crazy. I'm super glad I ever experienced those days. I like it now as their last year again. That was my first year in 3 years or 4 years or something. But yeah, I am so glad I lived through the 12, the 13, 14, and that massive just blowouts that they were, the incredible times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think it started to decline more than likely, I would say, in 16, somewhere in there, when FPV became really big.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the beginning of the slowdown for RC helis. And now I feel like it's starting to get back to where it was prior to the heyday. Like, I feel like the hobby is in a place where it was back in, say, 2008, maybe 2009.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It kind of feels like the way it was right before it just went nuts. So
with IRCHA though, it felt weird in that 2016-17 era then too, because and I could be saying this completely wrong, and I don't know how to sugarcoat it, but the guys who were running IRCHA they didn't give a shit. And if you tried to talk to them about anything or give them constructive criticism, you were just blown off. You couldn't talk to them. I don't know. It never got a good vibe from any of them.
There was a lot of arrogance going on. So Bert, you were selling those Make RC Helis. What was it?
Make helis great again, or something?
Is that what it said?
What the
Keep
hell?
RC helis alive.
That's it. So I bought that T-shirt and I was wearing it at IRCHA, and one of the IRCHA board members said, "You should take that shirt off." I said, "For what?" He said, "Because helis are still alive or something." And he was like serious about it.
Yeah, I made like a run of 100, and I think we were selling them for literally our cost. It was like, we're just doing it. I don't know. I don't even know why. Just to spread the word. Hey, push helis, It was like a really scary time for helicopters then, because there was a lot. The FPV was taking off, like the FPV quads were going nuts. And I mean, I had friends locally here in Florida that like literally quit the hobby to fly FPV. And it was like, I was flying FPV. So I was like, what is going on? Like it was a very weird time in helicopters. And I remember we came up with that idea. The guy that used to do marketing for Ready Heli, who does marketing for us now, he's like, "Hey, I came up with this idea. Why don't we do this?" And then he did the graphics, and I made some T-shirts, and we sold them for Like literally our cost. I think we were paying like $5 or $6, and that's what we were selling them for. Or maybe we were selling them for like an extra $4. We were covering our bases. It was cheap, maybe $10.
Yeah,
or whatever.
They were cheap.
Yeah, but I think it was one of the former IRCHA presidents. I don't want to mention any names, and it wasn't the former president. The one before him, I think, was so against it. He's like, that is so terrible. You know that. I forget what words he used with me, but he was totally against it, and literally. That was I mean, I remember that year at IRCHA. I think that was that was later. That was 2018 or something like that. Maybe even 18. Yeah. It was a horrible year for us because everything and anything in the world that he could do to like boycott us as a business, he would do. So I mean, yeah, we had no demo time. We were like, we paid what we're supposed to pay. We donated the prices we're supposed to donate, and we couldn't get the right demo time, and everything was like a hurdle. And we got the wrong tent, and then the tent wasn't placed where it was supposed to be placed, and it was like a big deal. And anyway, that guy was no longer there, and then he got replaced by Dan Lucente, and Dan was good to me. So, but yeah, IRCHA was it's always been now that I'm a part of the board, I'm ready to quit. Not because I don't not because I don't have the passion and the willingness and the desire to see IRCHA succeed, but man, it is such a it's a shit show. It's not because the people involved, it's because of all the things that happen and all the red tape that has to do with the AMA and with surrounding the event and the organization of the event and trying to please everybody. And now that I see, how things are run and what it takes to run it, and the amount of money that it costs to run it, and all the crap that has happened in the past with the way that things were handled, and how there was corruption. It's not a secret. I mean, and it's inevitably it almost makes me feel like I'm into politics, even though it's a hobby and it's toy helicopters, whatever. But I almost think of it as like it makes me wonder, like, if this is as bad as it is, like, imagine being in the real politics, right? And having to make everybody happy, and I scratch your back so you scratch mine, and this guy's pissed and that guy's this. And the AMA is, and I'm sorry if somebody from the AMA is listening to this, I have nothing to fear about this. I'm a current AMA member. I probably will always be. I've been an AMA member for 40 years, but Jesus Christ, you guys need to get your heads out of your asses. Because the red tape that happens with the AMAs out of this was insane. It's insane. It's like dealing with a, government agency that's politically driven and fueled by bureaucracy and red tape all over it. It's a disaster. So, yeah, being a part of IRCHA, it's fun to see people have fun and to know that you played a role in making it happen. But boy, oh boy, let me tell you, it's a lot of work, man. It's an insane amount of work, and you get nothing out of it. I'm not saying the previous boards didn't. I know this board is not getting. I haven't gotten one dime for nothing, no reimbursements. I said no, I'm not taking a dime, but I have probably invested, I don't know, several hundred hours of my life into IRCHA. And somebody like Tima, for example, that poor girl, she's invested 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, insane amounts of time to get nothing in return other than just the satisfaction to know that she played a role to make this, continue and be a reality. But yeah, it's anyway, enough of that. But it's still exciting times because I feel like IRCHA needed to be revamped, and even though I don't think it's been revamped to the degree that we all wanted it to, it's not something that can happen overnight in a year's time, right? But I see the IRCHA future being brighter and better than ever with some of the changes that are taking place, And this year there's more changes, and the following year will be more changes. And I don't know if I'll be around for 26, but I'll definitely be around for this year. And yeah, we have big ambitions and big plans, and hopefully things will work out. But it takes a lot of a lot of work. You know, it's not an easy task, especially when you have a life and a family and a couple of different jobs. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate all the work and effort you guys are you and all the other board members are putting in to make it happen, and make it a big event.
Yeah, these guys are like hardcore men. I mean, we got this chat for the board, and I'm telling you, it never ends. It's just going on a Sunday at dinner. You know, I might be at a dinner date with Susie, and bing, 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 bing. It just doesn't stop, and it's tough to be able to balance that with normal life and, like I said, everything else that goes along with it, right? So but hopefully it'll pay off. Hopefully, we'll see.
I can only imagine. Like I'm the president of our local club, and I've ran our fun fly for the last few years, and that made me want to quit everything in this hobby just from the stress level, and that's not anywhere close to what IRCHA has to be involved with. So I completely understand. I totally appreciate all the time and effort that everybody's putting in there. When I was there last year, it had a totally different vibe to it from previous years, in my opinion. It felt, I don't know, it was kind of like, and I don't want to get political, but it kind of felt like I felt in November this year. Like I woke up feeling like we won something. You know what I mean?
That was just because Aaron and I were there.
Had a much fresher feeling to it. And watching like Tima, I seen her just running her ass off all weekend, man. She was like everywhere. Everywhere I went, she was there doing something. It was crazy, and to see that kind of effort in. And I think, from a pilot's perspective, I don't think anybody expected it to be extraordinary the first time around, or even the second or third time around. You know what I mean? Because it's a big endeavor, and I think putting in the work and stuff is going to take time for it to be kind of finessed into something that everybody can enjoy, without having too many complainers.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's very difficult to find, it's not only finding people that are willing to do the job, it's also finding people that mesh together correctly, right? So, the new board, was already changed slightly because Mike Wilson, who was helping with a lot of stuff, had to quit the board recently because his wife, had some health problems, and he's unable to be a part of the deal, right? So it's finding, it's not only the hard work that goes into running the event and everything, but it's also finding, a group of people that get along and that can work well together as a team, right? Because if your ideas don't mesh with the other person, then it becomes this convoluted, argumentative meeting that doesn't really doesn't yield any results, and it doesn't accomplish anything. So it's a lot. And then, of course, the actual volunteers during the Jamboree itself to make things happen, because there's so much to do. So much. It's freaking insane, But I mean, I agree. Tima was instrumental to making the Jamboree a reality for sure. And there were other people behind the scenes that many people didn't hear about or see, like Matt Yost. He's part of the board now. He replaced Augie. He busted his butt doing a lot of work during the Jamboree. So a lot of people doing stuff that most people that attend IRCHA and go there to have fun don't even notice it or don't know about it. But yeah, the work behind the scenes is freaking insane. It is insane. It really is.
Yeah.
But
no, like I said, we appreciate all the work that's going in. So with, past IRCHAs being passed, all the work being put in, with all that work, what made them decide to increase the time frame for this year? Now, instead of being like, Wednesday to Sunday, now it's like, Sunday to Sunday? I think this year?
No. It's still Wednesday. It's still Wednesday through Sunday.
I thought I saw where they were doing like a whole week sort of thing this year.
Unless I wasn't informed by the board.
Oh
no, I think
that was the message that came when you and Susie were at dinner.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Or you know what? I could have missed it because we've had a couple of meetings in the last 2 weeks to discuss changes to the sponsors, like the way that sponsors contribute to the event and what they get in return. Everything, we're revamping pretty much the sponsorship agreements and all that. So I've been like pretty much in charge of making those changes and presenting those changes to the board and having the board vote on the changes and then getting the sponsorship packets ready to send to the sponsors to get them locked in and everything else. But I haven't been really much up to date with anything outside of that as of right now. So I really don't know. Last year when Augie practically begged me to join the board, and I agreed because I knew Urcha needed help, and there was practically nobody willing to take on the responsibility. I told him I'm only doing it for this year. Well, now I'm here in 2025 doing it again. And, I told all those guys, listen, I love to help, and as much help as I can provide, I will. But, I also, to some degree, make a living out of the hobby. And I have to be at Urcha also as a sponsor, as BK Hobbies, right? So if I spend all this time helping run the event in any way, shape, or form, that's time that is taken away from me being able to conduct business and do what I need to do while at Urcha, right? And everybody was very understanding, but nonetheless, I mean, take for instance Saturday. I think Saturday I had maybe 2 or 3 hours to spend with my team, my guys at the tent, and take care of things. The rest of the time I was either on the microphone announcing something, or the morning meeting, national anthem, this, that, and then there was a thing at noon, I think noon demos, and then it was the battle of the brands. And it was an all day event where, like, Susie was out at the tent with my team guys, like, okay, Bert's busy, and it's cool. Like, I don't mind it, but I also missed being with my people and doing what I need to do for my business and for myself to have fun too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it's all good. It was for a good cause. And it'll be the same way this year again. So, and hopefully, as Urcha keeps improving and people, the attendance grows and everything else, there'll be more people that be willing to volunteer and participate. And then, the responsibilities can be spread, because the more people that want to contribute and help and volunteer, the easier it is for everybody, right? Because then, you don't have 1 or 2 or 3 people, doing most of the work. You have, 20 people doing the work. So it gets easier and easier that way. But we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to this year. I think this year will be pretty cool. We're making more changes. I think there were too many events at center stage that didn't need to be. I think there were some things I kept telling everybody, like, my vision is to bring, Urcha has to be Urcha, right? And there has to be demos and competitions and the night flying and blah, blah, blah. I get all that. Sponsors, whatever. But I feel like it needs to be still a little bit more laid back, because it needs to feel more like a fun fly than a trade show. That's my vision for it. And that's what I feel like most of the board now sees as well. So we'll see. We'll see how that works.
What do you think, Aaron? You've been kind of quiet here, Aaron. So how about you give us?
Yeah, I was actually even just gonna kind of touch on that.
What's something you want to see for Urcha?
Well, starting it off, one thing that I loved, and I think we touched on it a little bit in the Urcha portion of that podcast, was something I saw you do while you were announcing that I had never seen anyone do at any fun fly, because no one had the balls to do it. And I loved it. You were calling people out for unsafe flying, and in some cases telling them to land. I loved that shit. That was awesome.
I heard you say that when you talked about Urcha, and I was like, if you guys never came, Mike, did you come to the Orlando helicopter blowout back in the day at some point?
No, I haven't. I've never been to that one yet.
I was an asshole then. With that, and maybe that's why people think I'm a dick, I guess. I don't know. But listen, man, if I don't care if it, we had a couple, 2 or 3 instances throughout the years at our local field at Torches where people got hurt, right? One of our club members literally lost a part of his nose, with a 550 or 600. And it hit him in the neck to where it was, a quarter of an inch away from hitting his main jugular vein, right? See, he would have been dead. Yeah, he would have been dead in like 2 minutes. But we've had instances like that, and knock on wood, and hope to God nothing happens again. But it's been years since that happened. But point of the matter is, you never know when something can happen, and then it could be devastating to us as a community, to that particular person, to the family member, to whomever. And you can't tell when somebody. Sometimes you can tell if it's negligence or if the pilot is high or drunk or whatever. Other times, you don't know, right? It could be equipment failure. It could be anything, and safety has to come first. And we try to get the net again for this year, and it was such a complicated process and expensive. And issues with the AMA trying to put that back in place and everything else, that we decided not to do it against our will. But with that said, I was like, I told the entire board, if there's an issue with safety, like they're grounded, at least for that moment in time, right? We can't ground them for the whole weekend, but
right. And a lot of the issues I saw were almost specific, and I'm sure it happened during the day. I might have just missed a lot of it, but a lot of it was like night flying, where it didn't even look, from being I've flown under the lights a ton. I know how your nerves get sometimes if you haven't done it enough, and it almost didn't look like even guys being drunk or high, although I know they were. It was more so the fact of guys going, "Oh, holy shit, I'm in front of a large group of people." Might have been their first time flying under the lights, or might be newer to it, and you had guys almost just getting sloppy just to fly. They were, there's that edge of where they're comfortable, and they were pushing it way beyond that.
Yeah.
I loved, because I've been at a lot of fun flies where, I mean, we all know shit gets wild at night at fun flies, and to actually hear someone get called out for their shit was awesome. Because too many people, I've been at those events where you're like, oh, such and such is going up, I'm going back to the car, or I'm going back, going under the canopy. And I know there's been incidents at IRCHA of people many, many years ago punching helis through sponsor tents and just people doing dumb, ignorant shit. It's one thing if you crash close to the flight line, but when you're back way over the flight line with a scale heli, or you're just doing stuff that is completely uncalled for. I loved hearing that, and I think more people need to follow in that footsteps of kind of preaching more safety, because it seems like after the lights first come up, that goes away.
Yeah, and no, I agree with you 100%. And like you said, if you have guys that get excited, and they might be stone cold sober, they might not be drunk or high or nothing, but they're pushing hard, and they're nervous, and they're probably shaky because they're just not used to flying in front of a crowd, and that's all it takes to just lose it a little bit, and it's just not cool. So we tell them to land. I mean, the guy that was flying the massive, ginormous scale Vario helicopter, Sandy Jaffe, he's the father of AJ Jaffe. I've known those guys for ages, and he's a super nice guy. Yeah. And I thought he lost it, and he was doing the Battle of the Brands, and I said, you got to land. You have to land. Yeah. And I mean, after the fact, he came to me and he apologized, but he said it wasn't me, it was this and that, and he actually had an issue with I forget what it was. It was some electronic whatever. It was intermittent. He was getting intermittent response from the helicopter, and I was like, okay, that was even more of a reason for you to land. And he understood. He wasn't happy at the time, but he totally understood. But that leads me into what I was going to mention this a while back about the Battle of the Brands. I hate the Battle of the Brands. It's so stupid. We need to bring back something along the lines of the one competition. Because
hell yes,
yeah, I agree.
The Battle of the Brands is like, okay, I represent Contronic. I'm gonna fly a 87-pound ugly. I mean, no offense, I like scale too. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to be an ass, but it just doesn't go along with what everybody else is doing, right? So that's great for a demo, but not for a competition. Right?
The one competition used to be, I remember going down, watching you go out, Bobby in that era go out, Kyle. I mean, shit, I remember when you guys built that box and you ejected Kyle's, what was it, like a Goblin 700 out of the box.
Yeah.
I mean, there was shit that was so cool and so, like, the gimmicky stuff. And I loved that.
Like Kyle used to call it, not Kyle, Bobby used to call it the circus tricks. It was all about the Bobby started.
He was good at those,
man.
I remember you guys with the night flight. what was it when you introduced the Dalcon, where you guys threw the parachutes on the bottom of your helis? And I think one of yours didn't deploy. It was either yours or
Mine didn't
Bobby's.
deploy.
Yeah.
It did,
Shit
but it
like
was
that.
angled.
Like,
Yeah, it was-
that is a show. Like when you're watching that, it feels like you're at a concert. You're at a show. You're into it. You're yelling while watching the flying. Everyone else is really into it. And those little gimmicky things, I think, get people excited over it. Where the Battle of the Brands, I know they did that to kind of take the gimmicks away, but the creativity's lost in that.
No,
Yeah.
I think the battle. I don't know why the Battle of the Brands came about, but I can tell you that the guy that came up with the idea of the quote unquote the one competition, his name is Jack Burnside. He used to own Empire RC, which was the distributor for Gowie and Scorpion and all that kind of stuff. And he was he worked closely with George Van Gansen, the owner of Scorpion Power Systems. And they're the ones. Jack is the one that started the one competition, and something happened with Jack, and when I think he ended up selling the business or closing the. I don't know the story, but when he left the hobby industry, the board at the time didn't want to continue to do the one because he had a registered trademark on the one, right? So they try to do something different, and I think that's how the Battle of the Brands came about. The one competition, if I can recall correctly, excuse me, was an invitational only. So in other words, Bert Kammerer is flying for BK Hobbies. No, Bert Kammerer can't fly because he's not invited. You know what I mean? It was an invitational only competition, whereas the Battle of the Brands, every sponsor at the event that's gold or platinum or whatever levels, I don't remember, can get one pilot to participate, right? So yeah, it changed and it became more commercial. I mean, the one was a commercial thing, don't get me wrong, but it was, and Jack was paying the winner $7,000, remember? And they had this suitcase, this briefcase with a bunch of $1 bills, and I don't know if they were fake or not. I know the winner actually got the $7,000, but they had this briefcase that they opened up and they had all the cash in there, and it was like a show. It was a show.
Yeah.
It was made for show. But, and Bobby's the one that really, I feel like, and I'm not saying this because Bobby's my friend or anything, but Bobby, I feel, is the one that pioneered the whole circus trick situation, because his first flight was, with the little NX4, Gowie NX4, and he had Rick, his friend, long-haired Rick, with the air guitar, and all that. And it wasn't like anything special, but it was the funny, it was the circusy nature of the flight, right? With Rick playing the air guitar behind him and all this and that, and then from there it went into this other thing and that other thing, and then the landing in the parachute, and then because Kyle did the parachute years after Bobby and I did it for the night flight. Kyle did it for the Battle of the Brands, and he used the parachute. The one, and he used the parachute, and the difference is he came down with a parachute, and then he had a release mechanism with the servo. So he releases the parachute, and the heli continues down with the blade stopped, and then he's pulled it up, and so it just kept going and escalating into, okay, let's see who can do the coolest, craziest, most badass tricks. And it was just cool. And the Battle of the Brands has just kind of killed that, in my opinion,
Yeah, I mean, I remember getting super, super excited. I can't remember if it was a YouTube video or an episode of good old Smack Talk, but I remember watching the one competition, and it was such a, like, you just got excited, because again, you feel like you're watching a show. That was that classic era. And I think we're coming back. We're starting to see guys fly. You do a little more creative stuff, but you guys definitely pioneered all of that. That shit was awesome.
A lot of it was Bobby, but thank you. But you also said something in a previous podcast that I totally agree. Like it's like the crowd, it's like the people are not like excited. You know what I mean? Like it's like back in the day, it was like, yeah, come on, lower fucker, get it. That you don't see that as often anymore.
Yeah, we were the assholes out there. Like we were yelling at people with the bullhorn. We were, fucking get lower, get it on the deck, bitch. We're yelling, and people are looking at us like, What the
Yeah,
fuck
they
is your
started
problem?
yelling at you like, "Come on, man, my kids are over here."
Yeah, people are like,
Is it the majority? Does it have to do with us heli pilots, not you guys, but guys like me and Aaron? Are we getting older? Is the majority of the helicopter pilot population getting older? Is that it?
It might be.
Boring.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I mean,
yeah, I mean,
It might
I
be.
feel old. I'm 26. I feel old saying that.
One thing that I've noticed, and we've talked about it on here before, is like the creativity out of like the pro pilots. Like Kyle Dahl used to do those Majesty of Snow and Majesty of Sand videos just throughout the season to kind of keep you entertained a little bit. Nobody does that stuff anymore. It's just kind of everybody's just kind of goes to the field, puts a couple flights in, and goes home. It seems like
Yeah.
these days.
No, it's very true.
the
It's very
excitement
true.
levels just isn't there the same way. So what's going to happen? Are there any plans for IRCHA this year to do something like that you just have figured out yet? That's going to maybe add a little excitement, a pizzazz, some special event that is going to make everybody go, "Shit, yeah, this is what we want to see."
Yeah. The Battle of the Brands is done and gone. That's not going to happen this year.
Okay.
That's already a decision made. It's done. So we're working towards bringing the one back, but it won't be called the one, but it'll be along the lines of the one competition, right? So we're trying to figure out the logistics for the various things that how it's going to be judged and who's going to participate and how to define the participation, the criteria for who's allowed to enter and all that kind of stuff. So we're in the middle of that right now. But yeah, no more Battle of the Brands. That's done and over with. You remember up until 2020, what was it, 2023, we had these freaking power hours, right? I despise those things. They sucked. I hated that. From a sponsored pilot's perspective, which I really didn't have many commitments post 2017 or whatever. Because I was only with SAB, and the older I get, the less impressive I am. So, and I'm good with that because I really don't enjoy the spotlight anymore. To be honest, I enjoy having fun, but for pilots like Kyle Stacy and back in the day, somebody like Jamie Robertson and those guys like Maxwell and stuff like that were part of like 4 or 5 different teams or 6 teams, and they had a Scorpion Power Hour, and then they had a whatever, Hobby Wing Power Hour or whatever, and an SAB Power Hour. And these guys had to be there for freaking, maybe not an hour, but for a certain amount of time to wait their turn to fly and do their demo and then go back to center stage. And when you look back, there were only 10 to 15 people watching. Yeah. Because, people don't seem to be very motivated to go and watch flights because why would they when they know it's happening for 10 hours a day, right? They can walk to center stage at any time throughout the day and watch a very good pilot fly. So that's why last year in 2024 we got rid of the power hours and instead we did the noon demos because it makes more sense to have the 10, 12, 15 companies, whatever number of companies are there, to be all together and do an hour and a half of demos. Because at least hey, demos are at 12:30 or whatever, right? From 12:30 to 2, I'm going to be there to watch a part of it or all of it or whatever. But, when it's an hour after hour after hour for different companies, it just gets, people are not interested and it just hogs the center stage and it doesn't really accomplish anything. So for demos will be the replacement to the Battle of the Brands, I feel like, right? The demos on Saturday will be the equivalent to the Battle of the Brands. No judging, nobody wins, but every sponsor that is there that has contributed to the event and has sent pilots to the event gets a chance to have a pilot or two fly during the demos, right? And then in the evening, instead of Battle of the Brands, it'll be like the new one competition, the other one, whatever it'll be called.
There you go.
So, yeah, the other one, the next one. I don't know. It'll be something funny, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all about what it's the actual show and the entertainment value.
Get some of the guys that have been in the hobby for a long time, that are veterans in the hobby, have them do it, and you can just call it the old one.
Yeah.
That way you can go at it. Some of
We
the other
talk
guys that
about having the old guys fly, but no old guy wants to fly. I'm the only old guy that still flies.
I'll come out and hover.
We'll have to get Bobby out of retirement.
Bobby's not old, man. Bobby's like 30. How old is Bobby? He was born in 88. So
Well,
he's the same age as me, 36.
yeah, but he's been in the hobby for a long time. Maybe that's what I wasn't saying old one, but old to the hobby. Not these guys that are like a flash in the pan where they're here a year or two and then they're gone again. But guys who have staying power, they've been around for 10 years, that who they are yet.
For a long time. Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of what I mean.
That era of the hobby was a little different and not, there's a lot of amazing pilots now. I'm not taking anything away from it, but I think in that era, there was some of the pilots were more, and I don't mean to sound like I'm glazing or anything by saying this, but like more icons. Like, again, in that era, it was, oh shit, Bert and Bobby are going out, the duo. Oh, Kyle Dahl's going out. Now you have a lot of, and again, still amazing pilots, but you have more field reps, more smaller scale sponsored pilots that people, they don't have that recognizable name attached to it.
I agree 100%. But you know why also I think, okay, so there's two reasons for that. I think one of the reasons was that, way back in the day, flying well was not easy, right? It was like fly bars and, you know what I mean? The helis flew like crap in comparison to how they fly today, right?
Right.
I guess we can agree on that. So there were less people willing, there were not as many people willing to put all the time and effort to, to get really, really good at it. But also I think it has a lot to do with social media, right? Like, back in 2009, or 2007 or 6 or 8, Facebook did it even exist? It was in diapers. I don't think Instagram existed. I mean, back in those days, if you didn't go to the event, you didn't see, YouTube, that's the beginning of the YouTube videos and stuff. Or you had to go to runrider.com or helifreak.com to watch some videos, right? But now because of social media, everybody's a celebrity, right? It doesn't take much.
True.
Yes.
For somebody to just go on Facebook or YouTube and make a video and do a hell of a good flight and maybe, that person is this, because nowadays, I don't know what it is, but I see more talent everywhere than I ever saw back in those days. But I agree with you, Mike. It's right now it's like people don't, it's not the same. It's like, I feel like almost everybody is kind of quote unquote at the same level, and there's no excitement to go see. I remember the first time I went to IRCHA was 2004, I think, and I was so excited to see Alan Zabel fly. I was like, wow, he was like my freaking idol. I was like, Alan, can you sign my canopy? No, not really, but kind of like, I mean, pretty much, and then I got to meet him, and then we became friends, and then I joined a line, and it was like, it was so cool, and it was like, okay, it wasn't a big deal anymore, but those were the days, and now I don't know, it's just different. I don't even think there's a way to describe how, but yeah, it is different.
Oh, very.
I think that's all the more reason to take IRCHA in the direction, like you said, of being more of a fun fly rather than like a trade show, because you could see all that stuff on social media. There's no reason anybody's going to drive to IRCHA. I think most of the pilots are going to IRCHA as like a heli vacation for a week. You know what I mean? They get to go hang out with their friends they never get to see, fly all week, get away from the wife and kids, and kind of let their hair down,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be a whole week for sure. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Well, we don't want to spend the whole show here on IRCHA. I know we've covered quite a bit of that, and it sounds like an IRCHA show, but, I think we have some other things we want to hit Bert up for, since we actually have them at our disposal, though, too.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on IRCHA, though, before we would move on? Like, any one thing that we just need to know
No,
about
not
IRCHA
really.
coming up this year?
Just IRCHA needs people's participation, whether it is just attending or whether it is volunteering or whatever else. A lot of the volunteer positions are not going to kill anybody's weekend. Generally, the way we did it last year is we were taking 2-hour just 2 hour shifts for helping with various things like flight line patrolling or helping with registration and things of that nature. So we need volunteers, we need attendance. The more people show up and fly and have a good time, the better it is for the event, and the more likely we're going to be able to continue to run the event for years to come.
So
that's it.
Will volunteer signups be on the IRCHA website?
Yes,
okay.
I believe so. But if not, I'll give you the info so you can put it on the show notes.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say so people can check there, and obviously we're way early yet, but as you get closer and closer, they're able to figure out from there. Well, in the description of this, I'll make sure I have all the links to the IRCHA website, and hopefully any updates will be on there as well.
Awesome.
Cool. So
Cool.
On a side note, obviously everybody knows you have your business, BK Hobbies. How many years have you been doing that now?
So I started the actual company back in early 2014. So 11 years.
Oh, okay.
But at the time was mainly BK Servo, and then Switchblades came in 2015. And BK Hobbies is a retail shop. Didn't happen till 2018. In 2017, we acquired the SAB distribution for the US. In 2018, we became BK Hobbies. So BK Hobbies is a retail shop since 2018. And, at the time, obviously, we're only selling SAB products. And as of 2020, early 24, we expanded to, a few other brands.
Nice. I was glad to see that too. It was nice to see the expansion and adding a lot more options, into your lineup.
It was definitely a needed change.
Yeah, unfortunately, you got to kind of roll with how everything is changing, the changing world, and ever demands of. Unfortunately, I don't know how to say it. Like some of the, I don't want to say snobbish guys that are in the heli world, but what's hot today, they won't want tomorrow, and it just keeps kind of changing because there are a lot of really good brands out there right now.
Oh, and back in the day, not even back in the day, up until, I would say, literally up until 2022, 2021, 22, SAB was leading the market by a huge margin. Without a doubt. I have numbers. But ever since then, all these other brands have gained more and more of the market share, right? So yeah, it's crazy how the hobby's been changing. Not to say SAB is not popular anymore. For us, it's still the number one seller, but these other brands are growing very quickly, and they're gaining popularity on the market. So yeah, it's like you said, things change with time. We've got to adapt to the times, no doubt.
Did you ever think you would see Tron where they're at now, without getting into the whole past of all the stuff that happened with them and rehashing? Did you ever think you'd actually see them come to where they're at right now?
No, not at all. I was very well aware of Tron coming to the market. Oh my God, maybe a year or two before they even were announced as a brand, because I have been a very, very close and good friend of Joachim Etter, one of the owners of Tron. He was the co-owner of Exnova Motors, co-founder of Exnova Motors. And we'd talk on a regular basis. And I was at, I think it was Global 3D competition in the Netherlands a few years back. And he showed me this helicopter, and he said he was making this at the Yintech factory. And I immediately knew, well, this is where Matt Bodos makes the Synergy. And I told him this is going to be a shit show. Yeah. And he said, no, I know, but what do you think about the machine? And I looked at it, and it looked good. And I said, this is going to be a shit show. And sure enough, a year later, it was a big shit show.
Yeah, it was.
It didn't disappoint.
No, it did not disappoint. And then I remember calling him when all that mess was going on the Hangout and all these places. And I said, I told you it was going to be a shit show. And he said, well, you want to stock the brand? I'm like, no. I'm good, dude. I'm good. But, things cooled off, and, the brand started to pick up slowly. And, a couple, 3 years went by, and I eventually I gave in, and I said, because he would ask me every once in a while, you got to try one. And I said, well, I'll try an Advance, a Tron 7.0 Advance, and we made arrangements. I got the kit from him, and yeah, I built it, and I was very excited because I felt like a kid with a new toy because it's no secret, all SABs are they're SABs, man. They're all the same. Not really, but really. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's like having an iPhone and you get a new iPhone. It's the same damn phone. There's no new buttons. There's no.
Yeah, that's why it's better
That's
not
like a
to change
perfect way,
iPhones.
Mike.
But every 4 years you change an iPhone to get a little bit of excitement out of it. But so I tried it and flew it, and I said, hey, I want to sell these things because I really think they're a good brand. That's the other thing. Obviously this is a business for me. I'm not going to lie about that. And I need the business and I need the sales. Let's be clear on that. But on the other hand, I only like to sell stuff that I believe in and that I truly, honestly want to represent. I look a lot at the people behind the company. And I'm not saying that there's brands that I don't stock because I don't like the people behind the brand or the brand itself. There's also obviously a financial limitation to what I can do because we're family owned, we're small, we don't have unlimited budgets. But I on the other hand, when I bring a brand, I want to have a certain belief in a brand and the people standing behind the brand. And I know those guys are good people, and I know they have a good product, and the helicopter flies amazing. And but I going back to your question that took me like 7 minutes to answer. Yes, I was very surprised that Tron went from a complete shit show to a relatively popular brand for sure. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, a lot of guys have them and absolutely love them and swear by them now. So, yet I remember when you're first starting to see them, it was just kind of funny because they're like flying them almost in secrecy. And I remember that I think it was a spring fling the one year, you had a couple guys off to the side, real far to the side, flying because they didn't want anybody to see that they were flying them, and it was almost like an embarrassment.
We actually had Matt Bodos came up to our fun fly the one year, and there was a guy that lives over in Pennsylvania that had a Tron, and we were like dreading how this was gonna turn out when those two see each other at the fun fly. Like, we were taking bets like Matt's gonna pick this Tron up and smash it on the ground, or none of that ever happened. Matt's a good dude. He was very professional about it, but it was funny just that you had to kind of think, like, your brain had to go that way. Like, oh boy, is this gonna turn into a mess at the fun fly? We're having fist fights over a helicopter,
Yeah, for sure. I've known Matt for ages. I mean, I was dating my wife, Susie, when I was dating her 20-some years ago. She lived in Missouri, and I would drive up to see her and spend a few days with her. And I would always stop in Atlanta and hang out with Matt, and we'd go fly together. Like, I go way back with Matt. And when he was all upset and everything, I kind of understood. That's why I told Joaquim this is going to be a shit show.
Yep.
But things happen for a reason. It's not even worth getting into the nitty gritty because I don't even know it, to be honest. There's two sides to every story, and But anyway, it's a solid brand. It's really a good brand. So it doesn't hurt to have more competition too. With all the other brands in addition to Tron, right? More and more brands coming to the market is crazy. I think there's a limit to how many brands the market can sustain, but so far it's looking good. As long as it doesn't keep growing, I think we're in good shape.
What do you feel about the alleged return of the logo?
You know what? It's more than likely a fact. I heard rumors. I've been hearing rumors for months now, and when CD left SAB to go fly for Mikado, well, I know CD wasn't going to leave a helicopter manufacturer to go fly for a radio manufacturer, flybarless system manufacturer. So I knew they were gonna do a logo. I find it kind of odd, right? I don't know. I mean that a lot of people love the logos. I had a logo way back, like Jesus. Like I flew it secretly because I was flying for a line, but I had a Logo 600. I love that thing. It was awesome. It's a good machine. I don't know. I think is kind of crazy to, in my humble opinion, to try to release a helicopter in this market that is overly saturated. You know, you got to say BXL, Powertron, Steam, Align, you know, the new Fusion from, Horizon Hobbies. You have, Goose Guy, OMP. I mean, how many more brands can the hobby really, I mean, it's good for the consumer, but it's in reality, is it really sustainable? I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I really can't wait to see what they have in store like next weekend at Rotor Live. It'll be interesting. I want to see what they design or what they did. If it's like a typical logo with some upgrades, or if it's just like a new machine. I'm really, really curious. Really curious.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about it, to be honest. I haven't been excited about like a model coming out, not because I want to go buy one, I guess. Well, maybe, I don't know, but
You'll buy one.
probably. But
then
I'm
sell it
excited.
2 weeks
I'm
later.
excited to see like what they changed. Like what is the new logo? You know what I mean? Like what is different enough for them to want to bring it back? Like Bert said, in a market that's saturated.
Yeah, and you know what? Like some people hate me for saying this, but I love my freaking OMPM 7, man. That thing reminds me of how my logo flew. That thing flies so true and precise, and it's just so smooth. And I like I said before, I'd like to see. I hope that there are some very significant changes. I hope that is a real, true new logo, right, and not an improved logo 700 or something like that.
Right.
That's what I'm hoping.
Guess time will
We'll
tell.
see.
We'll see what shows up.
We got 2 weeks left for Rotor Live, I think.
Yeah, it's not this coming weekend, but next weekend. So the 7th or 8th and 9th, or yeah.
It's the weekend
9th,
after RCHO, or that same weekend or something
same,
like that.
The same weekend of RCHO. Yep.
Yeah, because I remember Simone saying she wanted to do RCHO but couldn't because of Rotor Live, or the two of them causing issues.
Are you going to go to Rotor Live, Bert?
I was supposed to go, but honestly, I have so much stuff going on in it. The trip is not cheap, so I might not make it, but it'll be one of those last minute decisions.
Yeah.
But if I don't go, I might end up at RCHO, so we'll see how it goes.
Fun to be had either way. What do you think of, and I know Mike's going to love this one, you've been doing a lot with the rotor flight lately.
Oh, God.
What is Mike going to like about it?
Oh,
I have bought that platform
sold it,
twice.
Bought it, sold it, yeah.
It's just so I want it to work for me so bad, but it's my problem because I can't just put somebody's file in there and fly it. I need to understand how it goes together, how to program. You know what I mean? It's killing me.
I'm with you 100%. But so what happened to me with try to condense the story into 2 or 3 minutes? I used to fly Spartan, right? And Mike, you know that. I sent you one of those data pods or whatever. Yep. I don't even know how I found that thing. I think that was the last one I had. But I used to fly Spartan for years. I love Spartan. I had a great relationship with Angelo Sconius, the guy that started the company, because he sponsored me way, way back in 2007 or 6 or whatever with the DS760 gyro and then the Quark gyro that, Tel Gyros used to make. And then he disappeared from the face of the earth, and he came back with the Spartan. And he's like, hey, you want to help me with this? And I said, yeah. And so we worked together for a few years, and it was gaining a lot of popularity. I remember we went to IRCHA when he released the VX1E, the yellow unit that had the lower grade sensors. And, we sold a crap ton of those because he's like, do you want to sell them in the US? I'm like, hell yeah, I'll sell them. And they were gaining a lot of popularity. And then when I started flying the Yeti radio, because he said he was working on a interface to be able to program the unit from the Yeti radio. And so that's why I did a Yeti radio BK edition back in the day and all that. And you could program the Spartan from within the radio. So it was basically the first unit in the whole world that you could program from a radio other than Mikado, right? Literally. It was the only unit. And then Spirit did the same. They worked with Yeti as well. And I don't know if Icon did. I think Icon did too. But anyway, Spartan, amazing. And then he had a huge government contract and basically shut down the hobby side of the business. And then I was left kind of hanging, and I was like, okay, I kept flying Spartan for a while. I think it was a year before I said, okay, now it's like, what do I do? Like I need to fly something that's supported. So I started flying Mikado again, which I used to fly before that. But then what happened was when Mikado released the Evo thing, I had some issues with that Evo, and I wasn't happy with it. And I wanted to get Neos. I needed Neos. This is the beginning of last year when I started building. I built a Tron Advance, and then I built a Tron Dynamic, and then the OMP thing, and this other thing. I had a bunch of helis that I had to build, and I had no Neos, and I couldn't buy them because you can't buy them in the United States. You can only buy the Evo. So that started to aggravate me a little bit, and I try to work with Mikado. I don't know if they were busy, to their defense, whatever it is. I couldn't get any support from Mikado. So I kept flying it, and I kept swapping units from one heli to the other. And then a guy that's local to me, he does RC video reviews. His name is John Hopke. He lives here in Central Florida. He's been doing a lot of rotor flight, mainly HTX stuff and Express LRS. He invited me to the HTX Festival, which was held here locally, probably 30-minute drive from me. So I went there, and I got to meet some of the developers of HTX, and one of the guys that designed ELRS and all this. And I played with the stuff, and I flew this guy John's helicopter with rotor flight and the Nexus fiberless system. And he said, hey, if you want to try this, I'll have those guys send you some sample, a radio and a unit for you to try. And I'm like, no. Because I knew I was going to open a huge can of worms, right? So he ended up insisting. I said, okay, whatever. And once I had it, I had to try it, right? So, but I'm with what you said, Aaron. I think it was you, Aaron, that said it. I commend people like Archie and Hack and whatever for releasing the System X and allowing people to load a file and ease their lives. But I'm with you. I think you have got to learn this from the ground up. If you don't, you're not going to be able to fill the holes, right? And you're never going to know how to make a change or you have to tackle it from the ground up. You got to learn the system from the beginning to the end. And it's challenging. It's not difficult. It's just got to learn a lot of stuff and spend a lot of time. It's very, very time consuming. But all in all, now that my stuff is set up with it, I can set up a new model in probably no more than 15, 20 minutes, if that. Now that I know how to do it, I can export a file from one, load it onto the other one, and then just simply make changes to centering of servos and pitch, this and that, blah, 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 and go fly. It takes a lot of time to get to that, to get the knowledge to be able to be proficient with it. And anybody can do it. It's nothing hard about it. It's just a lot to learn. It's no wizards, that. There's no presets for anything. You just gotta learn it. You gotta do it. But I love how it flies. I think it's amazing, and I think that the price point is incredible, right? I mean, $80 for the unit, $20 for receiver for $100, or if you go with Fly Dragon, $100, $95, whatever it is, you got a new fiberless system that works really well. That has extremely high quality, excellent hardware, better than most others, right? So no, I like it, and it started like me wanting to learn it to see what the hype was all about, and it turned into me just not wanting to stop flying it. Like, I'm not going back to Mikado at this point. I don't see the need to.
It'll be interesting to see how the other manufacturers respond, like with the price point part of it, because it's going to be hard to compete with an $89 fiberless unit that flies as good as it does, So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
It's not difficult to compete with it now, only because it's that difficult to master and to understand and to set up, right? But if and when it gets to a level where you can fire up the system, push a button, update the firmware, and then load up the fiberless unit, go through a series of questions: what size heli, what's your skill level, blades clockwise or counterclockwise, what type of swash, where's the elevator servo, and you hit enter, and it populates all the options, kind of like what V-Bar does. If it gets to that level, I just don't see how anybody else can touch that in terms of competition. I just don't. I agree. I don't see how that's even possible. Why would anybody want to spend, $1,800 on or $1,500 or whatever on a radio and a flabberless unit when you can buy the top of the line Radio Master with the flabberless unit for under 500, and the hardware is incredible. I mean, the Radio Master transmitter is a little sluggish, like slow. The quality of the hardware is great. The processor is slow, whatever. But the flabberless unit is amazing. Like, it's got a super high grade sensor. I mean, it's a full CNC aluminum case. Like, you can't beat it for that kind of money. You just can't.
What do you think, Aaron? And here we are flying our old Spectrum stuff, huh?
Hey, it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
My good old DX18 still works, and it's comfortable. I've held too many new radios that are obviously a huge upgrade, but I love the feel of that fucking massive brick in my hands.
I hate that.
Hey, you get used to that's the other thing. It's not only getting used to the way it flies and everything you got to learn about it. It's also getting used to the way it feels. I'm super picky. I don't know about you guys. I think everybody is to some degree. I'm super picky with how the radio feels in my hands, right? And my God, I can get probably used to most radios, but it takes me dozens and dozens of flights, or 5 to 10, 15 trips to the field to get to a level where I'm like, okay, this is me. This feels good to me. You know what I mean? Like, switching from V-Bar to this I could tell it flew amazing, but the feel of the radio ergonomically in my hands is so different than, flying a V-Control. And just getting over that hurdle of that feel in my hands took me forever. So, hey, if it works, just use it. You know what I mean? Like, I agree.
I typically stuck to the one brand. Again, back in the day when I flew for Horizon, I flew Spectrum prior to that. I grew up racing RC cars with Spectrum. But I think the biggest reason I stuck with that is just kind of stick with what you know. Is when I worked at the hobby shop with my dad for about 9 years, we primarily were a Spectrum dealer. So when I'd have customers come in, I knew it like the back of my hand. Whether it was an RC car radio, a helicopter radio, whether they're doing planes, I could program it. I knew what I was looking at. You put a Futaba in my hand, I have no idea what I'm looking at. The radios are amazing. Same with Radio Master, Yeti. I mean, there's a lot of amazing brands, but I would look at it from a programming perspective, and I enjoyed being able to help guys at the shop. And if someone brought in a Yeti, I was like, I have no idea. I can't confidently give you an answer, or I can't confidently give you a setup that then is going to go translate to something I like. So I always stuck with what I knew.
I agree. Totally agree. Feel the same way. Like, when it comes to you have to stick to the one that you understand, and you can't just be flip flop, changing stuff around all the time. It's Futaba, for example, is not easy to learn. It's not impossible. I think it's slightly easier than the whole Radio Master, rotor flight thing. But it's still not super easy to learn. So once you learn that and you're used to it, why give it up? There's no reason to.
Yes,
that's where I'm at. That's why I like
get into. I'm sorry, God.
I was just gonna say that's where I'm at. That's why I like my Spectrum. I like my Icon, and it's what I'm comfortable with. I know how to do it. I know how to set it up, and I don't have to think too hard about it. That way, when I go to the, actually get to the field, I can go fly, have fun. I know it's just going to work, and I don't have to spend half my day just trying to sort it out and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mike, do you still fly the Spartan?
I do, yeah. I'm impulsive, so I have a Spectrum radio, I have a Futaba radio, I have a V Control, I have a FR Sky radio. So I have a little bit of everything. But the Spartan, man, that thing flies so good, and I still have the very first one I ever bought. It's probably got 2,000 flights on it. It's been crashed probably about 1,000 of those flights. And it works great.
Dude, was it the RET unit, the VX1?
It was, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, those things have an amazing gyro sensor. I forget exactly what sensor it is, but it's a really nice sensor. It's similar to the sensor that V-Bar had back when they had the Silver Line series. And then they went with a cheaper sensor later with the Neos and all that. But Yeah, no, those units were awesome, and they feel more like they remind. I love them so much because they kind of felt like a flybar heli that didn't have bad tendencies. That's what it felt like to me. It's hard to describe, but they were. It was very fluid with that unit. It wasn't robotic, and yeah.
The only Spartan I ever had, I have a Spartan Quark or whatever on an old Blade 500 3D.
The Quark was just a tail gyro.
Yep. Yeah, that's what's on there. So I mean, it's a flybarred, the old 500 3D, the flybarred 500 that Blade had out.
Sweet.
Yep, that's the only experience I've had with the Spartan.
Those tail gyros were really, really nice.
And
good. The tail on the flybarless Spartan units, the VX1s, that tail is so solid, so awesome.
Where do you see, with the world we're at right now with tariffs going on, what do you see for like the immediate future for the hobby in general and the hobby industry with all this stuff going on?
He's trying to get you worked up now, Bert.
No, I honestly don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs because there is so much conflicting information. Like, I just got one order from a Chinese vendor, and I'm not going to know what the tariffs are until probably 3 weeks, because that's how long it takes for the broker, to get the bill from customs and send it to us and all this. So I don't know. There's the United States Department of Commerce, who's in charge of assessing tariffs and things like that for certain types of commodities. It's a disaster, man. Their website doesn't show anything. There's just really no telling. I got a few different letters, emails, and so forth from different carriers saying, oh, this is changing, this is a blanket tariff on this and that and this and that. But there's wild speculation, and there's no concise, as of today, I mean, this could change tomorrow, but as of today, there's no firm, concrete, information in terms of like how much it's going to be or what's really going to be affected and what's not going to be affected. When Trump was elected the first time around, 2016, he immediately went and imposed tariffs on a lot of products coming to the U.S. from China. And one of those products was electric motors. But we were able to circumvent that with Xnova motors, which come from China, by declaring them as a toy model toy product, right? So they were exempt from the typical tariffs that a motor that would be used, be more suitable for industrial use would be subject to. So at this time, I don't know, but if they do have tariffs, as long as they stick around, if they're only about 10%, I think 10% is doable. I think people might be okay with 10%, right? But if it's something more than that, then we're going to start running into problems. I mean, I've been talking to different vendors from China and seeing if they're willing to like give us a little bit better margins so that we don't have to increase prices by 10%. Instead, we increase by 5%. Maybe they do 2.5%, and we eat up the other 2.5 points or whatever. But only one of those vendors have been very cooperative. The other ones are like, nope, sorry. So if the our margins as it is are pretty crappy because of the shipping, the freight cost. So, we're paying upwards of 15% of our invoice on freight, right? So that's 15% right off the top that used to be 5% prior to COVID. So with the margins shrinking, constantly, like, I'm sure there's no question in my mind that if vendors don't cooperate and the tariffs get thrown in place, then the prices are going to go up. But again, I don't know what you guys think, but I think if it's 10%, I don't know that it would be the end of the world. Who knows? We'll know. We'll find out. But I was talking to a friend the other day that's been in the hobby for like 30 years, right? And he was telling me, all these people online are bitching about how expensive the hobby is and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But he made a very valid point. He was like, he's like, my first helicopter was just like, it was called the Bent Frame by Miniature Aircraft way back in, I don't know if it was the 80s. And he said it was like $800 or $900, right? And when you think about it, like, I remember my first 700 size helicopter was a Nitro, and it wasn't even a 90, it was a 60. because there were no 90s in 2003 or whatever. I think the 90s came at the end of shortly thereafter, but this was a 60 and it was called a Fury 60. And that kit was $950 without blades and with a crappy ass canopy that was not even painted and not even like finished. You had to sand it, paint it, clear coat it, and all that if you wanted to, or you could fly a freaking thing that looked like an abortion installed on your helicopter.
Yeah.
And that thing was $900 and some dollars without blades. And today, I mean, just going to SAB because it's easy and right off the top of my head, you can buy a Raw 700, Il Goblin Raw 700 for $938 with blades. So, you know, and this is 2003, this is 2025. It's been 22 years. You know, in the meantime, I think eggs are 10, 15 times more. Bread is more. Beans are more. Steaks, you know, beef is extremely, everything. You know, Coca-Cola is 10 times, whatever. You know what I mean? I used to buy a 12-pack of Coke, you know, back then for maybe $3. Now they're like $9, $8. I mean, it depends on the state where you live in, but everything has at least doubled or tripled. But helis are about the same, so I don't think 10% is really that much. I don't know.
I agree. I think it just comes back to, so like all the stuff you were saying is all stuff that we need. You know, all the food, that's all stuff you have to buy, and it's going up. So people, yeah, they'll bitch about it a little bit, but I just think people just want to bitch to bitch. You know, so what are they going to do? They're going to pick on the things that they want, not the things that they need. So they'll bitch about heli prices or the parts or whatever the stuff that goes along with it. And I think it's just because they want to. You're never going to make everybody happy. We could tell them they're going to be discounting them by 10%. You probably have somebody bitch about that, you know?
Yeah.
I agree. I think the biggest thing is like what level of hobbyist is looking at it. If you're already looking at buying $1,000 kit, what's another 10%? It's only another, let's say, you know, $1,100 overall, where you're getting into that, you're clearly a hobbyist, you kind of know what you're getting into and you're building a kit, where a guy buying a brushed two-wheel drive Traxxas Slash for $229, now all of a sudden that's up to $249 or $259. That guy will flip more shit than the guy spending more money, because it's not apples to apples. You have the guy who, he might only pick that car up once every couple weeks versus the guy building 700. It's an investment. So what's the extra $100 or $200? You know, it's the hardcore guys. I don't think you're ever gonna piss off by that extra 10%.
No, I would say even 20%. I think most of the guys, people are gonna bitch about it, but I think they're still gonna buy. You know, it's a hobby. People are impulsive. It's an expensive hobby. And if I look at a kit that's over $600-$700, you know, it's $1,000 in my mind either way. You know what I mean? It's not like an extra $200 is going to break.
Well, and you know, and I agree with what both of you said, because and as you get into the higher end, even far higher end of the spectrum, like within the hobby, like think of somebody, you know, spending 10 grand on a turnkey jet, like, you know, turbine, you know, jet, you know, if they have to spend 11,000, doesn't freaking matter, really. I mean, if they're spending,
well, they'll bitch about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, they might, but they're still gonna pay the 11 if they pay the 10, right? But no, I could see that the guy that's buying the 149 product or the 229, you know, bitching more, because that's going to be a more significant price change. But again, it given the fact that you know, I feel like the hobby is when you compare prices, you know, from back in the mid 2000s to today, and you see, I mean, blades were $120 some back in 2005 or 6. And now they're 100. Actually, you can buy SAB blades now for $100, even for a set of 702s. I think even the 722s are $100 or maybe 105. I don't know. They're less than they used to be. So when you think of that, you know, adding 10% is really not the end of the world, right? And people save the 10% 17 times a year when there's a friggin' sales every 3 weeks. So yes. I don't know that it'll be a big deal, but I hope it's again, as long as 10% is the cap, right, and not something stupid like 30%, then it would be a problem. then it would definitely be a problem.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
For sure.
I agree, and I look at like the other hobby I've been into in recent years is about 5 years ago built a drift car, and I look at going back 2016 when I was first getting into drifting, and you're looking at the price of a chassis, price of a track day. You know, things are up, I would say, easily 100% now. When I was first getting into it, a track day cost you $250. Now you can't get out and do a track day for under 1,000. However, every drift track you go to now is more populated than ever. So I don't think price is ever going to keep people out of it if you really want to do it. Same,
And that's a weird, and that's a weird thing, isn't it? That like in some areas, some parts of the hobby, the prices have gone up more than others, right? But yeah, you know, the people that are in this and that are really enjoying this and that, you know, are in this for good, they're not gonna quit or whatever because of 10%. I just don't see it that way. But I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I hope I'm right. But if I'm wrong, well, it is what it is. But I don't know. I you know, there's ups and downs. You know, and this could be temporary too. You know what I mean? Like you never know. I think our president is doing this to exert, you know, to put, you know, try to get something out of it. I don't think he will, but I don't know. We'll see how it ends up. Now, there's brands that are not affected, like SAB, for example, is coming from Vietnam, so they're not going to see the problem. You know, there's not going to be any tariffs on that. So that puts SAB at a big advantage, right? If all the other ones are subject to that 10%.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't even think about that. I don't even know how to wrap this one up because we've covered a lot, and there's so much more that we would still like to cover. But at the risk of running really long and having everybody try to fall asleep while they're trying to listen to this and lose them,
Yep.
I think you know, we're going to try to wrap it up. I do have one question for you yet before we go, and this is backtracking a little bit to IRCHA. Are we ever going to see flying with the fireworks again?
You know, I was going to talk about that when we were talking about, I think it was Mike or Aaron, I don't remember, that brought up the thing with the parachute, I think, with Bobby, and we were flying at night and the fireworks after that or whatever. We actually were talking about that during our last meeting, when we were talking about the sponsors and this and that. I would love to see flying during the fireworks. It will depend on whether or not we can find the right fireworks sponsor that is willing to take care of it, right? Because back in the day when Empire RC was the sponsor of the fireworks, they would have their own pilots and they would take care of that aspect of, you know, the flying and the safety during that time. And they would coordinate with the fireworks guy and they would do all that. And then there was one year when I sponsored the fireworks as Switch rotor blades, and Bobby and I flew and a bunch of guys, and we had a great time. But we coordinated with the fireworks guys ourselves, and we mixed the music, and everything was very well done. That's not something that IRCHA itself can do, to be honest with you. That's something that IRCHA has to rely on a sponsor to take care of. So if we can find that right sponsor, that's the goal, to have flying during the fireworks. You know, you can't really do open flying during the fireworks for a lot of reasons, right?
Right.
But if we could, I mean, it would be cool as shit.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
That'd be a shit show.
Chaos, yeah.
It wouldn't be a wise idea. But if we can find
Sponsored by RCHO.
yeah, that would be worse than RCHO. But if we can find the right sponsor, I think it would be cool. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah, because that was always like the cap, you know, of the week. You know, you did everything, all event, and then when you did that fireworks show and you had the helis flying at the same time, it just did something. It made a statement, and it was just like it put that exclamation point on the end of the week, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
helis fly. You know, the helis fly for helis are flying for, I don't know, 5 minutes, whatever it is, 8 minutes, 7 minutes, and then you have the grand finale. You know, helis do autos or land, and then boom, you that's when you do the grand finale of the fireworks, and you know, and that's yeah. It's a super cool thing to end the event on that note. 100%.
Absolutely
totally agree.
Would be. So, well, we're all looking forward to IRCHA. I know I already have my camper already reserved. I'm going to be there from Monday to Sunday. I'm all set. I think Mike's already set. Aaron, I think
Yep.
you're already in. So
Yep.
full package is going to be there in full effect.
Can you believe I was so freaking busy last year? I don't even think I saw you guys, to be honest with you. I don't even think I did. I might have, but I don't remember.
Yeah, probably saw
Yeah,
you say hi.
you were
but-
running around like a crazy man, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys better stop by and say hello. So
Absolutely.
Oh hell yeah!
And,
I'll stop by with some beers or some other alcohol.
yeah, hell yeah.
Fuck
Yeah.
yeah.
Last year during the fireworks side, at the end of the night, I was pretty hammered. It was a good time. It was a good time. But I was so dead tired. I remember going back to the hotel, and I don't even remember driving to the hotel. I don't know if I had too much to drink or I was that tired. I was exhausted, but it was an incredible time. So yeah, if you guys go, definitely look me up, and we'll do a little bit of hanging out.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it this year. It's going to be a good time.
Down a golf cart with the big speaker, just yelling at people and trying to get people motivated to be not such poop heads for sure.
Oh yeah, I have my bullhorn I took with me, and we were scumbagging people into trying to fly lower and do stupid shit that they didn't feel comfortable doing, but they realized we wouldn't leave them alone until they tried it anyway. So kind of a throwback to the good old days.
It's fun talking shit. It's fun.
Until we were talking shit to somebody who didn't really understand English, and it took us a minute or two to realize they had no clue what the hell we were saying. But
Yeah, he was super confused.
yeah, he just looked at us like we're really confused, and then I was like, "Oh, he just thinks we're some dumb fucking Americans," and we're like, "Oh, now we got it." It was fun.
That's awesome.
Well, guys, we appreciate everyone for listening to this and listening to us kind of go on for a while about everything. Definitely want to have Bert on again, maybe a little closer to IRCHA, get a little more feedback on what's going to happen, some of the events that are going on. What is the one going to become? Is it going to be the one, the old one, the new one, the second one? Who knows?
Return?
We'll definitely do it. We'll definitely do it. If you bring me on, like I'll have a lot more info for you as we get closer to the event for sure. And I want to thank the three of you, Mike, Aaron, and I forgot your name.
Wow,
but,
Bob, really? Thanks. Damn.
Huh? What's that?
Bob,
No, I'm kidding. Dude, I'm kidding.
It's Aaron's dad.
Listen,
We call him Aaron's dad.
I would never forget you because no offense, but I used to make you special shirts. You remember?
yeah, I do. You were the only one who did.
Yeah.
love
You
you
always
for that.
ask, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll see what I can do. And it wasn't easy, but we used to make them. Yeah.
That's why when I went to IRCHA, I always had shirts because it was me and Big D.
Yeah. Well, God bless him and rest in peace. But I think he was bigger than you, dude. That dude was.
Oh, he was.
massive.
Yeah, he was a little bit. But that's why I always made sure I always had shirts because if he had shirts, I had shirts. So that's why it always worked out for me.
Yeah,
But-
there you go.
Yeah. No, I always appreciated that. I still have a lot of those shirts. Some of them my wife wants to get rid of because they're, getting holes in the armpits and stuff, but I can't get rid of them because, it's my shirt.
I'll tell you what. I'll the next run I will do some shirts for you.
All right.
So
Sounds good. I appreciate that.
That's why he brought that up. He just wanted to get some free shirts. He's like, when am I going to get more shit?
Get my free shit.
No, I remember because I always remember that because I had a good friend years ago that was the complete opposite of Bob. He was like this tiny guy and like nothing, everything he wore, even a small, was like this dude was the scrawniest dude ever. And he couldn't even wear a small because he looked weird in it. So he was that tiny, and like we were making shirts for him. So like we had like an extra small type thing that we could get from that vendor. So
We'll have to trade out when I have my shirts made for full package. I'll make sure I get you something there too, so we can do a trade.
there you go.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All the links are going to be in the description for whether you want to get some merch for the podcast, any information for IRCHA, a link to BK Hobbies. I'll have all that stuff in there. So any questions, you can always hit all of us up. Big thank you to Bert for being here. We appreciate him giving us the time to just discuss everything under the sun. Congratulations again to Aaron for his recent engagement.
Thank you.
And
Congrats.
this will
Thank
be signing off on behalf of Mike and Aaron. We will see you guys in the next one, and we appreciate all for being here. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll see you.
See you guys.
See ya.